Smile! I'm kidding. There's a horror movie that came out that's called Smile, and that's what we're going to be reviewing today. So I just wanted to set up the mood a little bit. Now we're just going to wait for YouTube to do its thing, and then, let's get straight to it. Welcome back to another handsome review with your handsome host. It is I, Jamil Surita, and we're going to be talking about the movie Smile, which recently came out as of September 30th, 2022. So, like a couple of months ago, I finally got to see the movie, and I had a couple of thoughts on it. But, in terms of making a review on a Tuesday, or actually a Monday night, it's a little different than my usual times. I just wanted to do it before it became December because, there's going to be like a lot of Christmas reviews and all the other type of stuff that I have planned for next month. So, I wanted to get one last bit of horror before the end of the year. All right, now let's get to it. So as you know, I do full spoiler reviews, and I gave you some time already. Haven't seen the movie yet. If you haven't seen it, stop the video, watch the movie, come back, and then let's talk about the movie. All right, let me see. So this movie is very much a curse type of movie because of the fact that the creature who smiles before the person commits suicide at the end can only be seen by the victim, by the next victim, basically. And so I think that it's definitely a unique premise, a unique take on the idea of the curse, which is something that was done very much and very well in the original Final Destination movies, and then less well and more violent in the rest of the Final Destination movies. So you can kind of compare it to something like that. Once you get it, you're stuck with it. But I feel like that's with all horror, right? When something happens, you can't really escape it. And that's usually how good horror works, because you need to feel the tension, you need to feel the fear, in order to really kind of enjoy the experience of what a horror movie has to give. And it sounds bad to say, oh, I enjoy fear, but you feel, you enjoy the tension, the thrills. It's pretty fun. It's like a roller coaster ride, And what else? So part of the reason why I thought it was a good thing to talk about was because of the unique premise, as I mentioned, the curse idea, where instead of having people see it, the only person that gets to see it is the next victim, which kind of goes into mental health. And I feel like the idea of trauma is a big part of the story as well. And I'm going to say a controversial word, but I feel like it has to be said in order for you to understand better context. It does deal with suicide. And I feel like in this day and age, it is something that people are dealing with more and more. And I think that to have it addressed in the film is always a good thing, because it kind of starts a conversation, about mental health, and how even if you look like the healthiest person in the room, sometimes you may not be the healthiest, upstairs. And there's no shame in that, because no one's perfect, And if you need to find help, you need to find it. So I recommend, if you feel bad or anything, going through some stuff, always, look for help, talk to someone who's willing to listen. Because I feel like at the end of the day, when you're being listened to, whether it's a stranger or someone I feel like it helps a little bit with the stresses of life. And I feel like, especially now, I kind of want to talk about it because of the death of one of my favorite actors, Jason David Frank, who played Tommy in the Power Rangers series, which, in case you haven't known, I'm a big Power Rangers person. Before the superhero craze that I'm in now, I was obsessed with the Power Rangers. Like, literally, if you ask my family every Christmas, what is the one thing I ask for? Well, one of two things. It was Power Rangers and Nintendo video games, but mostly Power Rangers. So I'd be like, oh, I'm watching a new Power Rangers show. Can I get the new Power Rangers? And I used to spend so much time with it. And I always thought Tommy, the actor who plays him, Jason David Frank, was one of the coolest Power Rangers to have ever roamed the earth, and more specifically, roamed the Power Rangers series. He's top dog, and it was very sad to hear that he passed away. So, hopefully his family is doing well. I send well wishes to him, especially, and to his family who are grieving right now. So, rest in peace. Maybe we could have a moment of silence. Okay? And now kind of moving on to the next thing. That's the part of the reason why I was inspired to make a video about this movie, just because of the relevance of it. And, it's always good to talk about this kind of stuff, to get it out there, because I feel like sometimes when you discuss it, you kind of, you highlight the important stuff, but it helps you kind of put some perspective into it when you're able to discuss it with others. And one of the things that I think does a really good job is the fact that it has a crazy ending. And to be honest, it's not that crazy because it was predictable for me. I was watching the movie with my mom, actually. And so, I was just, theorizing. I didn't want to watch the movie ahead of time. I watched it with her. And I was like, doesn't it kind of seem like the cop, the second lead, the male lead in the movie, is going to end up with the curse? And the reason why I thought that, and I thought that it made a lot of sense and it was really well done, was the fact that whenever the main character Rose had revelations, in the story, she understood it better about like, where the curse is coming from, about like the patterns and stuff. The guy wasn't there. He wasn't always present in the scene. And I feel like, what happens too is that when it comes to trauma or anything mental health wise, if there's no one there to kind of help you along the way, other people can get lost in it. And the character at the end I knew was destined to become the next victim of the curse, and it had a great ending. Honestly, it felt very epic when she finally confronted the demon that was chasing her, and it turns out that part of her story was the fact that her mom died right in front of her with a drug overdose when she was 9 years old, and she's living with that guilt. And that explains also why the character Rose in the beginning of the movie is introduced as a psychiatrist, psychologist. These type of characters, it kind of makes sense for them to kind of be a reflection of whatever maybe past trauma or anything that they've been through happened, and then that informs possibly the rest of what their life could be. So I thought that was really good. And then the ending was crazy. I like the fact that they went for it, and I feel like that's the one thing you can say about horror movies compared to the other genres. Other genres, they're kind of more interested in giving the happy ending at times, but I feel like it's not a realistic ending, in terms of like what life is like, because there is no credits at the end of our lives. I mean, I haven't died yet, but I don't think there is. And in the stories and these horror stories, it always kind of leaves you thinking, For me, one of my big issues about horror movies for a long time is the paranoia. It leaves me thinking like, oh, the monster's still out there, it's still alive, this or that. And at the end of this movie, it does exactly that. And she literally, after fighting and struggling, remember, I told you I'm spoiling this, and she ends up killing herself. And then the guy sees her die, her ex-boyfriend. And she basically douses herself in gasoline, which is pretty crazy. But before that, the lead up to it, she was confronting her demon, confronting her past. And then at the end, she was like, kind of like, she forgave herself for the issue and for not being there for her mom, even though she was only 9 years old. Because I think that's the thing that happens too sometimes. When we're younger, we don't fully understand anything. And I think that as we get older, one of the worst things about people, what they can do is recalling their memory. That always gets kind of contorted and messed up and turned into some sort of fantasy of what actually happened. And at the end of the day, like she kind of understood she was only 9 years old when her mom died. And so she carries that trauma, and part of that trauma is the reason why that monster was able to jump into her, besides the death of the last victim dying right in front of her. So, the monster kind of represents mental health, doesn't it? Kind of like the idea of like what happens to our mind and everything. So, I thought that it was a big part of the reason why I really liked the movie. I took to it. And it felt very much like a haunted movie where the main character is just being chased by the demon. But at the end of the day, the demon isn't the demon. I mean, it kind of is, but it represents something bigger. And I think that when a horror movie has kind of something more to say, it kind of elevates it into something more interesting. Let's see. Oh, the creature. I like the creature. When she was fighting the creature in the house and she burned down the house and everything, and the monster looked pretty huge, it kind of reminded me of the monster from the other movie that we talked about on this channel. You know which movie I'm referencing to? That's right, Barbarian. But I like the fact that it didn't feel as like human, because that monster in the movie felt more human than this one did. And this one kind of felt like a shadow type of creature, and I think that there's nothing more epic than when you see like a person standing in front of a huge monster, and that monster is like a shadow, because that kind of represents the unknown. It represents us going into the thing that we fear, because as people, the one thing we always are scared of is what we don't know. And so I think that to see that kind of be tackled and dealt with in horror movies works the best. It creates that tension, it creates that thrill, that ride of watching horror movies in the first place. What makes it so thrilling in the first place, And I think that's really about what it is, The smile was definitely creepy when you see the people, and there were many moments of hallucinogen where the monster was playing with her mind. And then at the end, when it's revealed that when she confronted the monster and she went to visit her boyfriend, she never escaped the house, that was also kind of heartbreaking. But I feel like that's what you need with these kind of stories in order to engage with it better. Because, as much as we love these characters, they're not really real. I think that the biggest thing you have to take away from it are the lessons and maybe the type of people you want to aspire to and the type of people you don't want to aspire to, you know? And how maybe sometimes one of the best things about watching a movie is talking with your family and friends and being like, how would I deal with that situation? And I feel like that's always a fun conversation to have. All right, so this is the end of my review. It's a little long, similar to my last review, which only has 3 or 4 views. It's very sad, I know. But I still want to say thank you to every single one of you who continues to watch my videos, and those who haven't seen my last video, definitely check it out. I will have the video somewhere over here. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. So let me know in the comment section below what you thought of the movie, if you related to it. And also, let me know if you also like Power Rangers growing up, because we can always talk about that too. I might make a review on that as well at some point in the future. That's like a 2023 type of video, Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.